there were two movies in general that were coming out this year that I kind of wanted to talk about on the show, and really none of them are long enough to talk about for an entire segment, I would say. So I want to talk about them together and then just talk about some general notes I've picked up on movies in general and what that might mean. So anyway, the first movie that was coming out that started this whole thing when I wanted to talk about it was that apparently Pharrell Williams is doing a biopic on his life, which, okay, that's fine. That's fair. But it's in the style of Legos. And what that means is I guess it's going to be like the Lego movie, but Pharrell Williams' life as the story. So apparently, I guess he said he was into Legos as a kid, so he thought this made sense. I don't remember exactly what the exact quote was, but he said he used to be into Legos, so, whatever. But, the thing is, I'm pretty sure we were all into Legos as a kid. Legos were awesome. We all played with Legos when we were kids, and if you say you didn't, you had no childhood. So, Pharrell Williams' life and Legos. So what the hell do those two things have in common? Like, what's the connecting point here? That he just wanted to do it like that? That he thought maybe more people would watch it? I don't know. And really, I mean, this is the other thing, which is I'm not trying to be a jerk or whatever, or say anything because, again, it's similar to what the dude's name, Steve Deese or whatever that I brought up earlier for like 5 seconds. I'm sure he's never heard of me, but I mean, Pharrell Williams, that's the guy who's going to make this, if we're going to do this really creative idea of a biopic about a guy's life with Legos, maybe it should be someone who we've thought about in the last 10 years. I mean, when you're going by that, why don't we make a Psy Lego movie, Remember that guy? Remember him? Yeah, why don't we make a biopic on his life with Legos, I mean, sure, I guess it's like a creative concept for a biopic because there's just so many of them about musicians now. It's become a huge trend for whatever reason. But why, if we're going to use this kind of creative concept on it, why do it with that guy, Like, why? I mean, and all it's going to do is if this is supposed to be a movie that's supposed to be, this telling of your life and how you rose from adversity or whatever to become a musician, just doing it in Legos, that's not going to make it any more serious. It's not going to make us take the movie more seriously. And if it's going to make, if you want it to be something that kids can watch then, well, I mean, okay, well, I don't think kids are very interested in biopics last time I checked. I don't think that's a genre they're paying attention to. But whatever. But that was all I was going to say about that movie in particular, because there's another movie coming out that isn't really a weird movie idea, but more just a bad movie idea. And that is that apparently in July, there's going to be a Despicable Me 4 coming out. So, okay, I'm personally not really a fan of those movies, like any of them. And there's, many people who share that opinion. But especially those crappy Minions movies. Those ones are the ones that really just, do it to me because they're just horrible. I mean, and again, before anyone says, yeah, they're for little kids, little kids who can't think straight yet, I guess, but they're for kids. All right, I get that, but I'm still allowed to say they suck, And okay, if kids like them, then that's fine. Although, frankly, I don't even think, do kids even like these movies? I always kind of thought it was more kids just watch for the Minions. Do kids watch for the storyline about Gru and his wife or whatever? But okay, this is the fourth movie in this franchise that started like 14 years ago. I mean, how many of these movies need to be made? And I think the thing is that I find funny, I remember someone brought up this point before, and it's so true, which is that, when you look at it, 4 is kind of, by the time a franchise hits number 4, first of all, I don't think there are a lot of franchises that hit number 4 that even want to put 4 in the title. I mean, usually that's when they start putting the name of the movie and then some subtitle under it. Or you can just be like the James Bond movies and not number any of them. But this is the 4th movie in a kids movie franchise. And how many of those are really that good, I mean, Toy Story 4 wasn't anything special. I saw that. And then, all those Blue Sky number 4 movies, well, actually, I guess there's only one, which is when they made Ice Age 4. But, that's actually kind of a separate point. We'll get to that later. But, I mean, why does there need to be 4 movies? 4 of them is anything going to happen in the 4th one that's going to advance the storyline at all? The 3rd one that one looked pretty bad as well, and that didn't add anything. So what's the point of making a 4th one? And I remember back when the 3rd one was coming out, I thought then it was kind of a long gap between the 2nd one and the 3rd one. Although partially that's just because, I mean, I'm 21 now, going to be 22 later this year. And during those 4 years from when I was 11 to when I was 15, a lot of changing and development happens with a person. I feel like the 4-year gap then, no, it's not just I feel this way. I just know I feel this way. It felt longer, that 4-year gap, than the 4-year gap between now and 2020. It felt a lot longer. And maybe, again, that's partially just because I've been an adult since 2020, so I've, I feel like in part when you get older, just time passing feels it feels faster, But I just to me now that it's been 7 years, so nearly double the amount of space between when the second and third one came out, which is I mean, now that I'm saying that, like, Jesus Christ, that makes me feel old, but whatever. There's been a 7-year gap, the longest by far in this franchise, between the third one and the fourth one. So clearly they didn't plan to make a fourth one. I mean, I don't even think they planned to make a second one, but they didn't plan to make a fourth one. So why are you doing it now? I mean, what can you add that'll be so substantial that you needed to make this now? And the other thing with it is that, I mean, when you talk about how this movie never needed to be made, I mean, it just seems desperate at this point by the studio, just desperate. Borderline desperation at this point. How desperate could Illumination be for money to make another one of these? I mean, do they just need a guaranteed juicer to milk $1 billion from? I mean, they made the Mario movie and that made $1 billion. They shouldn't be strapped for cash. How many more could they need? So, I mean, the Mario 2, whenever that comes out, is going to make $1 billion. So what I was saying is this is just getting pathetic to the level of, the blue Sky animation. Does anyone remember that? Yeah, I don't think anyone does. Maybe they don't remember the name, but made those crappy Ice Age and Rio movies. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of funny because I think I could only remember 3 like franchises from that studio, which was, Rio, Ice Age, and then this isn't a franchise, but the one movie, the Robots movie from the mid 2000s. I think that's it. And then when you look at it, but they didn't make just 3 movies. They've made, I think when you add them up, they made like 8 movies. 8 movies out of 3 franchises. That's because they gave Ice Age like 5 movies. How many movies does one franchise need to have before it's just enough, And why is Despicable Me going in that path now? Why is there 4 of them? There will be 5 of them. In fact, if you count the Minions movies, which, I mean, that's a completely different conversation because those are just horrible. But when you count those, there's 6. There's going to be 6 when this is done. Do you think that's enough? When can you just say, all right, we've made our money. We'll move on now. We'll keep our artistic liberty and just stay away. But no, they won't. But I did kind of assume, as I mentioned, that this whole franchise was kind of just done after Despicable Me 3, which I never saw. And apparently I know that I just said I hate those movies, and I never saw the third one. I mean, can anyone remember what happened in the third one anymore? I mean, I guess, and this is just because I looked it up, it was about how Gru met his long-lost brother, which is just about the most cliched plot you could possibly ask for. And that's what really made me think, okay, they're done after this. This is the last one. You can't do anything lower than that, than just go to that most cliched, used to death plot line. But apparently they can. I mean, I guess they didn't kill off Gru in the end, so they left the door open for a sequel. And then they decided to make the Minions 2 just about a year and a half ago, which I saw and was just about one of the most pointless things I've ever seen. And I think because of that, I was kind of just assuming this franchise was just running on fumes and was just, done. I mean, when you decided to make the Minions 2, and it was just a completely horrible. We had no story at all. It's like it's not even running on empty anymore. They're just making movies on nothing. So they've got nothing anyway, and they must realize that at some point. But no, I guess they didn't. I guess they're still on it. And really, I guess if there's money to be had, if there's money to be made and there's profit to be had, I don't think you can tell a big studio don't do something because of course they're going to do it. But I thought maybe they'd keep their integrity a little bit more than this, but no, I guess not. But apparently this movie's going to be about, and I know they released a trailer, but I think I watched about 10 seconds of it and gave up, so I just looked up what was happening. But Gru and his wife having a son, who then they get hunted down by a supervillain who escaped from jail, and the Minions are in it because, of course they're. And I'm not saying that in terms of they should have just not had him because, I mean, of course they are, and I mean, you can't just get rid of them, I guess, although that would be kind of cool. But, it's I think it's just kind of funny that Despicable Me 4, does anyone really care about the storyline for these movies who actually watches these movies? I mean, first of all, if you actually watch these movies, I guess there's a few different demographics, but if you're above the age of 12, then, that's when I start. Because if you're below 12, it's like, whatever, you're a kid and kids are stupid. But when you're above 12, you should start. I feel like someone needs to talk to me about it and just explain why, what's good about them, why are you watching them? Because it's really just about the Minions anyway, isn't it? So, I mean, if you really are desperate to just watch things that don't speak English and just run around and hit each other, then all right, well, there you go, I guess. But I feel like really they should just forget about Gru and his family or whatever, because no one's watching for that anymore. Everyone stopped caring about that. I mean, just focus on the main, which is what they're doing. So good for them. But really, there is no plot for this movie. It's just kind of Gru has a son and he's getting chased by a bad guy. I mean, it's nothing. It's really just nothing. But I usually wouldn't wish for this because I don't like to wish for things to fail, because if there's an audience for it, then let them watch it. I'm not gonna watch it, but unless it's like promoting bad morals or whatever, or is corrupting the nation, I wouldn't wish for anything to fail just because whatever. Like, let people make their money. But I really kind of just hope this movie fails so we can stop hearing about these. So they'll finally stop, because that's the only way they would stop. If they'd still make another one at this point, clearly there's no logical story point they're driving towards, and when they've finally made enough movies, that's when they'll let it go. Now they're clearly just milking this for every penny they can get from it, and that, all right, fine, that's their right to do. But for that, I just kind of hopes it fails so we stop seeing it. So anyway, I bring this up because what do these two movies have in common besides that they probably will suck, but that's kind of the point. As I mentioned, Despicable Me 2 is coming out in July, and I guess the Pharrell Williams movie is coming out in October. And maybe it's because I don't really pay attention to movie news or anything like that, but that's the only two movies I've really heard that much about coming out in 2024. And by that logic, we just, got nothing for this year. I mean, 2024 is just a filler year in terms of good media coming out. I mean, there is one thing that's going to be cool, and of course people bring this up, but the new Spider-Man movie, I don't remember the name, the Spider-Verse, whatever, that's coming out this year. And I'm going to go see that because those movies are actually good, and so, I'll go see that when it comes out. But, I mean, that's about it, really, what's coming out. I mean, 2023, I know a lot of people said there were a lot of bad movies. I mean, I thought there was a decent amount of good movies, and I saw quite a few, I remember. I'm not going to list them all here, but I think I saw, 4, 5, 6 maybe? I mean, that's... And I guess depending on who you are, maybe that doesn't sound like a lot. I don't really see a lot of movies when they come out just because I don't care. And a lot of them look bad anyway, so I don't care to see them. But, I saw quite a few last year, and I think the majority of them were pretty good. So the thing is, what does 2024 have? We got nothing. Nothing's coming out this year. I mean, nothing of interest. So my opinion is, why don't we just skip 2025, I mean, what's happening this year even that's going to be cool, There's the election, I guess, but, again, more evidence. Let's just skip this year and go to 2025. But anyway, we got Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out in 2025, and that's something where, granted, that I was going to make a list when I started thinking about this segment of cool stuff coming out then. I think that's all I can think of. But, that's fine, because, first of all, I can't think of anything bad coming out in 2025. I mean, maybe because it's still technically far away enough that we're not even hearing much about it. But Grand Theft Auto 6, I mean, that's enough to hold people over. It's enough to hold me over. And it should be enough for all of you, too. Because I'm telling you right now, the second that comes out, I'm buying it. And I'm not alone in that, obviously, considering that the trailer has, 100 million views on YouTube? So this isn't even free promotion. I'm just saying, when we got into the subject of things I was thinking about for 2025, I just thought about Grand Theft Auto 6 for a minute and felt happy for a little bit. But yeah, that's all I can think of. Is anything else coming out 2025? Do we have anything? But I think this is the lesson of why we get so many reboots, remakes, whatever. And I know everyone complains about it, and not without merit. I think there's complaining to be had. But the original ideas that we're getting now are just horrible. I mean, sure, Despicable Me 4 isn't an original. I'm going to stop talking so fast, I think, because, when you try to say despicable really fast, it just doesn't even sound like a word anymore. But anyway, I mean, time is money, so we're going to keep talking fast. But Despicable Me 4, and I guess that's technically not an original movie. It's a sequel for a franchise that's been going on for freaking 14 years now. But at the same time, it's a sequel to something original. So if you want to count it as an original movie, then sure. It's not, the story's not based on anything. But when we look at the ideas that are actually original, no one's coming up with anything anymore. What are we getting? So, I mean, take your pick. What would you rather see? A reboot or a remake that we know is going to be bad, or these movies that we know are going to be bad? But I will say I use the word bad a lot for the Pharrell Williams movie. I just mean it sounds like a bad idea. I won't say it's a bad movie. I mean, I'll go. I might go see it. I mean, if the show's still going by October 2024, I mean, if the world still exists by October 2024, I mean, it could be a good segment for the show in terms of I'm lazy and need an idea, so I'll go watch the movie and say how good it was, how epic it was. But Despicable Me 4 can just suck it. I'm not watching that, and I don't think anyone else should, because at least the Pharrell Williams movie is creatively bad. I mean, I'll say what I would have never thought of that. I would have never thought of an idea like that that looks as ridiculous as it does. But Despicable Me 4, that's just, money grubbing. They're milking something for everything it's worth or not worth. And that's where that comes from. I don't want to support that. At least, if we're going to see bad movies, let's make them creative. But Despicable Me 4 is just, the problem is it's not a creative idea, and that's where it kind of comes from. Maybe if the idea of what was happening in the movie was going to be super creative, like, I don't know, Gru joins Al Qaeda or something. I mean, I would say, okay, I didn't expect that was going to happen, but no, this is just a franchise that has nothing left anymore. So they're going with the least creative ideas they can. I wonder if his brother's going to be in it. That's what I'm kind of curious. But I'm not trying to just divulge into another conversation about the movie when I thought we were done with it. But I never saw the third movie, so I don't know. Did he die or something? I know he was a bad guy. I know the idea of the movie was that he was going to convince Gru to be bad again. So I don't know. Is he dead? Is he in jail? Where is he? But maybe let's bring him back, because what was he? He was just Gru wearing white and with hair. That was a really creative design. What, that take them 1/10 of a second? But after that one, I don't think there's any hope for this franchise anymore. So everyone has their own opinion on this, but you're listening to mine, so clearly that means I've won here. So if you disagree, then forward your complaints straight to the trash bin, because I'm not listening. I feel like I've ended a lot of segments like that, but it works for me, so we're going to keep doing it.